Wilson Morales from Black Freeman TV. Hey, Florence, how's it going?
Hi, Wilson. How you doing?
Good. His character Allison is going through a lot.
I I know.
How much of a deep dive did you go into playing this role? Whether it's studying addiction and grief and loss, because there's a lot that's packed into this one little small film that's not so small.
Yeah, I think it's incredibly important to do, I mean, as deep a dive as you can do when you're making a movie like this. There's no point in creating this conversation and talking about this very sensitive and delicate topic matter unless you know what it is that you're talking about, or at least you've learned about it. And for me, it was hugely important, and we spoke to AA leaders of groups, or people that had struggled with addiction in the past, or people that were helping with young addicts, just to figure out and for me to understand the physicalities of it. Allison's story is a roller coaster. It's up and down, which is what it is like to have and be on the road to recovery. And so yeah, it was hugely important to make sure that we got it right, so that if and when the person that needs to watch this movie watches it, it affects them in the way that it should do.
You've done a lot of projects, but when you take on this role, two things. How does it, what do you take when you're playing this role that you can relate with? And what's your takeaway from Zach's direction that helps you out skill set wise as an actress as you move on to other projects?
Um, One thing that I've truly loved working with Zach is just how collaborative it's been, and the ability for me to be and feel free, and for him to guide me in the ways that are necessary, which doesn't necessarily always happen. And I think, something that I've learned about his leadership skills is the inclusivity of his sets, and the way that he really wants everybody to do the best that they can do and to bring ideas to the table. It's a very kind set to be on, and to watch him as a leader was wonderful. And just to see how he makes actors feel, because he is an actor and he understands what it's like to be in our shoes. His dialogue with how he talks to us and helped us through things was probably the main reason why I think every actor was so happy on set.
Before I let you go, how's working with Morgan?
Oh, heavenly. Absolute heaven. We sang together, we danced together. It was a really, really special and beautiful time in my life. And I think everybody that was on that film felt like we were making something special. And I got to work with a man that I've watched since being a child. I know his face so well, I know his voice so well. And to have him direct his lines at me was just sensational.
Congrats on the role. Take care of yourself. We'll talk down the road in your
Thank
next
you so
projects.
much. Thank
Take
you.
care. Wilson Morales from Black Freeman TV. Hey, Zach, how's it going?
Hi, Wilson. Nice to meet you.
Good. There's a lot of storylines in this movie. So for you, was it ever challenging trying to put it all together? How long did it take before you said, I think I got it? When you're talking about Morgan's characters and Florence's character, and then you got Celeste's character, trying to put it all and weave it all in.
It was complicated. I think it's the most intricate story I've ever written myself. There's so many different storylines and people who are interacting with one another, and then there's reveals of things that the audience doesn't know, and then there's different. It takes place over a couple different years. So you're right. It was tricky to construct. It took me a while to crack the puzzle.
Mhm. And then when you have Florence playing the lead role, and obviously she's dealing with the loss of what happened as well as her addiction, you know, where did you get where did you get that storyline from? Is it something that you came in from somebody you knew? Like, how does one come up with this story?
Well, I think many people in 2023 at least know somebody who's battled addiction in their lives, or close to someone, and I have plenty of those people in my life. And I just felt not I specifically focus on the opioid epidemic in this film, but it doesn't. It could be alcohol, it could be anything. Particularly after the pandemic, I think so many of us kind of found ways medicate ourselves through this incredibly traumatic event of lockdown and the pandemic. So I think that I had just access to it, and I have friends who are in the program, so I use them as counselors and would ask them if I was getting it right, and yeah, that's how I just wanted to write about it because I was sort of seeing it everywhere.
You're working with Morgan again. What's that feeling like when was he your first thought when you first started putting together his character?
I never thought I'd get Morgan, to be honest. He doesn't usually do smaller films, and we didn't even have financing when I went out to him. He doesn't often attach himself to films that aren't set up yet. So it was a double whammy. I knew him from directing a big studio comedy. But I sent it to him and I thought, oh, I'm going to have to wait like a few weeks to hear from him. And the next day he called me and he said, I see myself on every page of the script. And there was a long pause and I was like, well, does that mean yes? And he laughed and said, yes, I'm with you. So no, I didn't necessarily write it with him in mind because I just honestly never thought I would get him. I wrote it with Florence in mind, and I thought, oh, I'd love to get like some older, great grandmaster actor to go toe to toe with Florence. But when Morgan said yes, it really elevated it to the next level.
What's your takeaway skill set wise after directing and writing this movie?
Well, I really enjoyed not starring in something that I've directed, because the other two I've played the lead. So for this one, it was really nice to just sit back and focus on the actors and making sure I got it all right. So I think I'll probably be doing that more and more as I direct, and not trying to also be the lead of the film. This was a experience I really liked.
Congrats on the work. Take care of yourselves. We'll talk down the road.
Thank you so much.
Wilson Morales from Black Freeman TV. Hello, Molly. How's it going?
I'm good, Wilson. How are you?
Good. So when you take on this role of Diane, there's a little bit of humor in this character, but there's a lot more to it. What were you looking to get as you read your size, as far as what he wanted you to play this role?
I think I wanted to give the character human qualities. I sympathize with my character's struggle. She's just like feels so powerless. She can't control her daughter who's gotten addicted to these drugs. And she's just like, and the accident. And you feel sympathetic for the mother character. She tries tough love and that doesn't really work. And then she's like, okay, here, take the pills. I don't want you to die. So you sympathize with what people who, characters like Diane or people in real life that have loved ones who struggle with addiction. It's just a very, very, very difficult. So I think Zach wrote really complicated characters. But at the end of the day, they're good people. They're just flawed, and they're dealing with grief, and they're trying to find forgiveness for themselves and redemption. And you can see that if people are able to get through these hard things, there can be beauty at the end of the struggle, that it's not that sometimes beautiful things can come if you can get through it,
Is this a role that when you start looking at it and you start reading it, do you do a deep dive in? Like, do you go to someone that or do you go to places to do a little bit of research to add depth to the character you're playing?
Yeah, sometimes I do, but I think with this particular subject, I was already naturally interested in that subject. I love that show Intervention, and I like to I read a lot about the OxyContin and how, they tried to tell people that it wasn't addictive. I was very interested in reading about that. And Sam Quinones, the author, writes amazing books on crystal meth and addiction and what's on the streets and what's going on with the cartels. And so I'm very interested in reading about that. And also I'm a mom in real life, so you have to be very educated about that as a parent. So I really relate to the character of Diane. It was just, I think that, and then Florence Pugh was just such a great actress. I was so excited to get to work with her. She's so talented. And Morgan Freeman, oh my God, Shawshank Redemption is one of my favorite movies. And I couldn't believe that I had a scene with Morgan. It was just, the whole thing was just so much fun.
So when you work with Zach, actor, director, writer, what do you get from his direction skill set wise that you can take on to another project? You've worked a long time, different areas, film, TV. And so when for every different project, is there something new you're getting out of this particular film? And you say, okay, maybe I haven't done this before. Maybe I'll take it to the next one.
Yeah, well, Zach is he writes his own material, so that he's directing his own script. And I think that he just has a very laid back attitude on set. He knows exactly what he wants, but he moves fast. And I don't know, it just felt very collaborative. What I love about Zach is he really will it was like Zach, Florence, and I all working it out. And he's just very easy to work with. He makes you feel good. He's easy. Because he's an actor, he knows how to direct actors. So the best thing to do is to go, that was great. Now try it like this. You can get more of a performance. So he just naturally understands it because he was an actor himself. So it's just, it's better than just a director who wasn't well, whatever. There's all different types, but Zach's extra good because he is an actor too.
And it makes the chemistry work well. Good talking to you, Molly. Have yourself a great day. We'll talk
okay, thank you. Thank you. You too, Wilson. Thank you so much.